This is the Astrology and Tarot Show with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. Here is your Astrology and Tarot for the week starting Monday, July 21. Your tarot card can be decoded at my website. Aries, the Chariot. Taurus, the Ace of Pentacles. Gemini, the Ace of Cups. Cancer, the Three of Cups. Leo, the Star. Virgo, the Ace of Wands. Libra, the World. Scorpio, the Queen of Pentacles. Sagittarius, the Lovers. Capricorn, the Three of Wands. Aquarius, the Queen of Wands. And Pisces, the Empress. Aries, the Uranus in Gemini cycle brings a free, exciting new emphasis on planes, trains, cars, boats, and other ways of getting around like a bike. It's all about getting away for a weekend or even longer. Gemini rules neighbouring places for you and how you get there, and you've not had this cycle in your adult lifetime. In fact, the last time that we saw it was the war, and all sorts of things appeared from the Lambretta to the Volkswagen. So whatever is evolving around you is going to make a difference to the way that you travel between now and November, and then from April next year, ongoing for years into the future, actually, until 2033. This week isn't just about the wheels, it's also about new freedom, which could be a friend giving you the keys to a flat in a local state or county, or more space in your life, perhaps in another region like Wales, if you live in England. The rules of the game in astrology are it's across the map, so it's sideways. It's not international, maybe unless you go from London to Paris on Eurostar. But what turns up this week allows you to explore the landscape with far more liberty than you've had to date. And that's a good thing because you need a break from the ongoing issues elsewhere in your life, which are so repetitive, particularly with work or your well-being. That has to play itself out, Aries, but in the meantime, you can plan a getaway or start thinking about a different way to get from A to B. And it would be, as I've said, until November, which is the first wave of the cycle, or alternatively, after Easter 2026, with particular focus on June next year, when the sun will also be in Gemini. For some of you, this getting around differently or getting to different places correlates with what's happening for you on the internet, with publishing, education, or the media. If so, that will really rev you up. Taurus. Well, the South Node in Virgo cycle continues in your sector of children, courtship, the bedroom, babies, and adult children too. Different generations and close ties. Karma rolls from 18 or 19 years ago, now and next year in 2026. So you are owed on some level, or you still owe, and there was never really closure. For some of you, this is about a teenager in your life who is around 18 or 19 years old. In other cases, it's about a relationship from that time, either a phase in a relationship involving the person that you're with now, or a different person who brings up familiar themes. There's always evolution on this cycle. You change on the inside, you become a better person, a happier person, if you understand that it is going to be repetitive. Ever since the start of this year, Taurus, nothing that you've said or done in terms of close relationships or a younger generation has really made that much difference. In fact, you must be wondering if you're not just reading out your lines and hoping for other people to change the script when they have no awareness of what's going on. It can feel like watching life on rewind. But the trick with this cycle is to understand that you need to be more philosophical about it, perhaps. That will make you feel calmer about it or develop a sense of humour about what's going on. If you are a Zen master, Taurus, you'll actually use the repetition in order to exploit opportunities to gain the upper hand spiritually or mentally. Now, that would be very interesting for you this week. In terms of a younger generation, questions about babies or pregnancy, or particularly in terms of courtship or the bedroom. Gemini. This Pluto in Aquarius cycle in your house of foreigners and foreign countries has taken you through the most intense crossroads once already in 23 and or 24. And now as you go into the second half of 2025, you're being shown new perspectives on it all. You might be Australian and she might be British, or you might be American and find yourself dealing with Italians or Italy. It's on that level. This is the ninth house of the chart, and it also segues into publishing and academia for a lot of people born under your sign. In other cases, you're just on world tour, you're traveling, or you're dealing with another culture in your own city or town and their particular take on things. What's happening is an ongoing lesson in what it takes to feel as if you are sharing the controls with other people. That can be quite difficult to do if the other person, the organisation, or even an entire nationality feels that they are in control of you. Now, that can happen with this cycle. The trick, as with all Pluto transits, and particularly this week, as we begin to see oppositions to Aquarius in your chart, is to understand that your self-discipline will help you through. You are the boss of you, and nobody else can get in once you've made up a particular set of rules for yourself. And that may apply to visas, citizenship, tourists, immigration, or alternatively, dealing with a different language, or it might as well be a different language in your own part of the world. Understanding that you are holding the reins and nobody else makes you more determined to run this journey the right way. Cancer, you have the North Node in Pisces at the moment and the South Node in Virgo. That can only happen every 18 or 19 years. So this pins down neighbouring places at one end of the map and foreign countries at the other. You happen to be on a loop with it this week, so the past will come back to you with those neighbouring or foreign places as life 18 or 19 years ago casts its shadow in your chart. It's neither negative nor positive, it's just recognisable. Same song, different album, perhaps. If you're one of those Cancerians who has Gemini factors in her or his birth chart, it is the local, regional, adjacent places on the map and those people which will call a revolution for you. You could call it Texas and California, or France and England, Auckland and Wellington. It's on that level. Uranus in Gemini in that zone of the world chart too, as well as in your own chart, suggests that you have to look back to go forward. And this may be your car, public transport, or domestic flights, a boat or a bike. Life 18 to 19 years ago does have a story for you. As you look sideways on the map, even if you don't have Gemini factors in your chart, enough other people do out there for there to be a revolution which begins now, stops temporarily in November, and then restarts in April. It may be about the English Channel. It may be about US electoral boundaries. It could be about Australian states or US states. Twin cities is sometimes part of the deal. You don't really get closure on this until July 2026, but until then, you learn extremely well how you want to develop your take on it. Leo, this Uranus in Taurus transit in your career, academic, and unpaid work zone is odd. It stops in July. As you know, you are beginning to adjust to no more predictable unpredictability. For years now, you have had what they call the rejection dance in astrology. Uranus is all about hearing no and saying no to others, maybe a whole industry. So this week puts the recent past in focus for you. Basically, Leo, you will understand your mission or ambition in life much better since 2018 if you understand that the more distance there's been put between you and others, the more freedom you found. This may have been you distancing yourself, or alternatively, others very much distancing you. It's pretty familiar to people who were born under the sign before you, and yet for you, it's still just new enough that you're probably getting ready for one last wave, and that wave will come when Uranus goes back into Taurus, into your zone of career, academia, and unpaid work, which is November. Yet from April next year, it is really a different ball game, and one in which you know the rules and you can anticipate what the referee is going to say or do, as well as the rest of the team. Virgo, the North Node in Pisces is in your zone of duets and duels. There is karma with this person who is your other half, or very much the other side, from 18 or 19 years ago. Even if the face was different back then, it may have been somebody else altogether, the song remains the same. You two may have been married for 20 years, in which case this man or woman is quite clearly the karmic main event. In most cases, though, what you'll recognize this week is the repetition of a theme, and you'll begin to understand that you never got closure. You might have thought that you shut a chapter 18 or 19 years ago in a battle, a feud, a dispute, a conflict with a marriage, a business partnership, or a platonic partnership, and yet your chart says nothing ever really stopped. The waves or the ripples from that time are still reaching you. So as a result of that, life can be quite repetitive. Nothing that you say or do really has much impact on him or her or the situation. It does stop, and it stops next year. As you get to July, you'll begin to see the repetition also wind down. But until then, you have a chance to change on the inside and develop a perspective on he or she, which will help you feel better about it. Even though you're gaining, maybe the repetition is still too much. And if you feel that you are challenged, shall we say, then at least you know that it's going to stop, and B, it does actually have a purpose. Libra. It's amazing how the seventh house of your astrology chart teaches you about two-way cooperation in this really unusual cycle. Just in case you think that you've got the partnership sussed, you'll hit days when it's blatantly obvious that you're not reading from the same page as this man or woman. And it's even clearer if you have a conflict. This cycle is about your other half or the other side. It's about the person on the other end of the scales, and for some of you it is legal. For example, a marriage contract or perhaps a lawyer's concern with you. With you in this two-way balancing act, with him or her either with you or against you, you're really feeling the scales that rule your sign. Even two business partners who split will qualify. With Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron all in Aries, all in your seventh house, you're going through a cycle that's highly unusual, and it also demands that you play a waiting game. There is a test of patience associated with this man or woman, which will perhaps seem longer than it has to be, because Saturn can feel as if you're watching the sands through the hourglass. It's very much associated with clocks, and in Greece, Saturn is known as Chronos, from which we get chronological order, but also chronic situations. So if you feel as if this has been going on for ages, even though it's only been a few weeks, you're quite right. It does stop, and then you move into phase two, with or without this person, which is a complete holiday from the real world. That comes later. But this week, what you're being asked to do is look at the scales that you share with him or her and figure out, how do I improve the scales, or how do we get a new pair of scales to work with? Scorpio. Uranus in Gemini, the predictably unpredictable with finance and property, is here until November. Then it comes back into your life from April 2026 for many years into the future. I mention that because November might be in your diary now, and perhaps next Easter, in terms of a house, an apartment, insurance, superannuation, pension, and so on. Even if you're not working that far ahead, you can expect several Independence Days in relation to cash, security, lifestyle, and all the things that make you feel rich or poor. This cycle is also about your values, what you will compromise over and what you will never sell out for. If it's true that everybody has their price, or what their idea of priceless is, you will find it's freedom. In fact, that just happened. Uranus in Gemini in your eighth house is here to stay, but its recent arrival has resulted in you putting a price tag on being at liberty, being freed by or liberated by something, or breaking free from something. And sometimes it's a someone, it's a personal situation where you feel that you are trapped. Uranus works pretty quickly, and whether you're running towards something or running away from it, it will all happen by August, and you'll be left with your very first Independence Day. Sagittarius. This Pluto in Aquarius cycle rules your brother and or your sister, short trips, the way that you get around, and the written and spoken word. If a brother, cousin, or sister is in a new chapter with you now, then the power or control questions need to be answered, and that was the case in 23 and or 24. Now that we're well and truly in this cycle in 2025, You're going to have to look at your own self-control and your own willpower if you are going to feel empowered by what is going on. When Pluto moves into the third house, which has never happened before in your lifetime, you suddenly see the politics involved in a sibling or cousin. But it's not just about that. It's also about communication, full stop. There's a bit of a double whammy here in your personal birth chart too, and also in the world horoscope, because there's a communication revolution coming in. That's Uranus in Gemini. We've not seen it since the last war. Back then, it was all about code and also the invention of the computer, and it was very much about the radio and radar. Now it's artificial intelligence and a few other things that are just starting to come in through the door. You are affected by this more than other people because when we go back to your Sagittarius chart, you've also got the big change planet Pluto in your sector of communication, information, and the rest. So it's not your imagination. You are being affected by this and will go on being affected by it for quite some time. The bottom line is who or what would make you feel free, independent, and no longer dependent? Answering that question will take you most of this week, but it's worth it. Capricorn. The North Node in Pisces brings back the past in terms of your internet or media. Life 18 or 19 years ago comes back. Communication, the written and spoken word, the message that you need to get out there is influenced by this cycle. The North Node is the loop or the flashback to the past with the web, publishing, education, the media, even fundamental things like hearing or speech or literacy. You're now being taken back 18 or 19 years to understand that was then and this is now, but now owes so much to then. So that's basically 2006, 2007, 2008, or thereabouts, over the rest of this year and next year too. If you look at Catherine, the Princess of Wales, who is a Capricorn like you, and you go back into the past, we find her being a project manager on the Middleton Family Business website and catalogue. So that tells you something about how the past repeats. She owes or is owed from that time. And right now, she's actually on the web, front page in most newspapers, starring at Wimbledon. So she's clearly owed. On whatever level you are owed or you owe, particularly with the web, you do have to get closure with 2006 to 2008 this year and next year. And that closure will come slowly through repetition. Aquarius, babies, children, teenagers and young adults bring you the revolution this week, which may or may not be televised, with apologies to Gil Scott-Heron. This is a long cycle with your ruler, Uranus in Gemini, and your fifth house for many, many years. The first wave is now, and you would already be noticing it. Freedom from him, her, or them, or freedom through him, her, or them is the calling card on this cycle, with independence from or independence through a relationship or parenthood, for example. Every Aquarian is different, though, and the younger generation will affect you according to the decisions that you've made in the past. Over the next few years, but evident this week, is a long wave of change which will separate you from the past and allow you to break free from any situation, place, people, or organisation which ties you down. If you are single Aquarius, never say never, because from mid-2026 to mid-2027, your best partnership opportunity in 12 years will arrive with Jupiter in Leo. And if you or the other person has factors in Leo, then it's a double whammy. 26 to 27 could see pregnancy, step parenting, fostering, or double godparenting. But back to your Aquarius chart. Uranus in Gemini in the fifth house is something else. Everybody has their own rules about having no rules or changing the rules. And that's now what is taking place, whether this is your adult son, your ex-husband, or somebody that you're dating. As I've said, everybody's chart is different. If you need more insight into your personal situation, do try the tarot on my website. Pisces. It's quite unusual to have the South Node in Virgo in your house of partnership, but also disputes. It takes you back 18 or 19 years to situations which were never closed with this person, these people, or others who will remind you of the same issues. The door is open to closure this week if you can accept it is going to take months. Again, either with he or she from the past or a different face who raises the same or similar issues. The seventh house is about your other half or the other side. So, your ex husband, for example, or your professional partner may be somebody that you see as being the enemy. It's either the two of you or me versus you. So, what does it mean to have the South Node in this sign? Well, Chris Martin is a Pisces like you, and if we go back 18 or 19 years, back in 2006, he had a boy called Moses with his then wife, Gwyneth Paltrow. Now he's back in that cycle, and karma is here with Moses, who is a musician like his father. It's different for every Pisces, but as the nodes go backwards through the signs, never forwards, the situation with your other half or with the other side will repeat on a soul level. In fact, the repetition is the only way that you can sign off from it, and that means that between now and July 2026, you may in fact have a strong sense of deja vu. That's okay, because knowing what's coming next, what people are going to say or do, endlessly familiar, allows you time to focus on yourself. And that's actually the only change that you can make, Pisces, altering your reaction or your response to what is going on so that you feel more comfortable about it. And ultimately, by July 2026, you actually feel that you've evolved. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you next week.